next one on. Ryan, good to see you back again. Today we've got Elliott, Elliott Capel. I know you from way back. We used to play together back in the UK.
Way back.
Yeah, reminiscing about the good old days. And since then you moved out to Australia, and then you're currently living in, is it St Kilda in Melbourne?
Yeah, that's right, mate. St Kilda with all the other expats and Europeans.
Taking over.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right. So the first question I ask everyone when we come on here is, where did it all start for you with football? Kind of how did you get into it?
For me, it started, or my first memory of playing is probably about 5 years old. A good friend of ours, of the family, he was the manager of his son's team, who was the same age as me. So I think we must have been 5 or 6 years old. And going out in his back garden and playing, I think there was about 20 kids there. I can't remember what it was, maybe a birthday or something happening at the time. Running around, having a kick about, and then getting taken into the front room and then making a joke about, so does he pass the trial? Does he get signed? And then playing Sunday League football for a local team, Manacroft. And I don't think we were very good, to be honest with you. My first memory, in those first few years, we were pretty poor, but that's where it all started. And I do remember you'd watch Match of the Day on the Saturday nights, all the goals, the passes, all the rest of it, the skills, practice it in the lounge, in your bedroom, what you're going to do the next morning, stay up cleaning your boots with a toothbrush, get up the next morning for it to be rained off and you don't get to play. Biggest disappointment ever.
Just clean your boots for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
I remember that, getting that old leather dubbing on.
Yeah, all of that. I don't do any of that anymore. Not that keen anymore.
Same. Ryan, do you get fined for dirty boots?
Who, my lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a £5 or so. So, yeah, you get fined for it. I mean, the amount of fines I probably got last year, when it hit sort of winter, and obviously like the newer boots, sometimes they're hard to clean. So like I wear the Vapors, right?
Yeah.
And just the material in it, as soon as you get mud on it, it's like, that's it. They're dirty for life. They're never going to get sort of back to where they were. So I was like, just give up really, trying to clean them. So I was like playing on a Saturday, they're getting filthy, putting them in my bag, putting them in the garage, going to my game on Tuesday night, thinking, oh no, £5 fine, here we go. And then literally they would come around, they'd be like checking boots, and I'd just be like, don't worry about it, just whack a £5 in. And then, but it's just, because it comes so difficult. I don't like, a lot of people, they like getting in the shower and scrubbing. I hate doing that because boots just get wet and then you get wet in your bag. And yeah, I'm not really a fan of that.
I was going to say, that's the experience, is you do them in the shower.
Yeah, that is.
When the youngsters come in like this, you just like get mud all up their back just as they're leaving the shower.
That's actually something that over here, they since coming from England over here, I don't think I've been at a club that fines you for dirty boots over here. In England, it was a given. It was a standard thing. You get your boots out, and it was a given that majority of people hadn't cleaned them anyway, so it was just a way of raising a bit of money. But they do love it, especially the club I'm at now. They do love a fine over here. And the club I'm at now, I don't know, these guys are millionaires or what they're doing, but the fines are ridiculous. what they're
Mate, don't. Oh, we had this year. We had when I signed at Dulwich, we had a players fine. And there must have been about 20 fines on it. Then we had management fines with about a good 15, and then we had physio fines.
Yeah,
must have had about 50 fines. So if you were getting fines, you were like,
you
were literally just walking in, sitting there like this, going out to train, coming back, sitting there like this, and then going home. Like, you were doing nothing. So it was, And you just think, and then we were getting fined for things that weren't even on the list. And you're like, hold on a minute.
So what's the weirdest fine that you've heard of then each year? Who wants to go first?
I need some time to think about that. The weirdest fine.
Do you want me to go? I'll go first if you want.
Go on, give us some inspiration. I need to
think. The weirdest fine was we had a non-grooming fine. So if you were a little bit long downstairs, £5.
I mean, I've never come across anything like that personally.
I don't know about the weirdest fine, but I have I have seen in the changing room someone get a trim because they were too long. Someone else in the club had his clippers with him. Gave him a trim. He went home and got in trouble with his missus as well.
I mean, I don't know what clubs you guys have been a part of, but I've not come across anything like. No, I've come across some weird banter, but I've never come across. Don't know. We just like even like last year because it was full time and stuff. You used to just get silly fines like if you're walking across the pitch to go to training, it's like a £5 or a £10. Like, I've never there's one fine that annoyed me more than anything last year. Is we hadn't received we received a tracksuit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the tracksuits, mate. Like, you know the old school kind of tracksuits.
Yeah.
Like where you just like, oh mate, horrible tracksuits.
Yeah.
So we received those, and the gaffer was like, nah, you lot can't wear those. But obviously tracksuits have come a long way sort of since, like, do you know what I mean? And so we didn't wear them anyway. We played Braintree away, and he's gone, right lads, smart casual. We're away from home, smart casual. Okay, cool. Before I say, what would you two wear? Away from home, a league game. He said smart casual.
Well, I wear smart. Considering I spend most of. Go on, mate. You give it.
For me, it's changed, right? So, in England, all the clubs I was ever at, you had to be smart. So it was like shirt, tie. Yeah. It was like to that level. Over here, it's just tracksuits. I don't know if it's changed in England now, whether it's just tracksuits to most games, but so there is no smart, tie and all the rest of it over here. It's just literally all team tracksuits.
Yeah.
So I would go with that.
I say, considering I spend most of my time in like hoodie and shorts, and my smart casual will probably be like shorts and t-shirts, something like that, tracky bottoms, and a polo shirt.
Yeah, so that was my point, right? So as soon as you just say smart casual, that's open to interpretation, isn't it? Like your smart casual is going to be different to Elliott's, going to be different to mine, right?
Yeah.
So as you turn up, I'm thinking, right, I'm away from home. Well, what would you normally wear to a game away from home? Well, you normally travel in a tracksuit. So I whacked on my friend of mine's tracksuit. So I've got Fresh Ego Kid top on, Fresh Ego Kid trousers on, trainers, bag, boom. So no different other than the fact that we ain't got the club badge on it and whatever to what you would wear normally. Right, so anyways, we get there, and then there's some boys went direct, some boys got on the coach. I'm seeing some boys in like jeans, pair of trainers, a t-shirt and a jacket, like as if they were going into town, or even some of them like dressed as like they're going on a night out. Anyways, we walk in, the gaffer goes, no fine to those lot. Sees me, goes, fine. I was like, what? So I got fined, and then the boy after me was wearing tracksuit bottoms and trainers, but he had a t-shirt on and a jacket. No fine. I was like, nah. Like, and literally, like, it was just the most ridiculous. Honestly, I think I must have spent about 20 minutes before the game just arguing my case. And I was like, how are you finding me? And then he's got a tracksuit on, but his is a designer tracksuit. So all of a sudden, he's okay, no fine. And then he's got jeans on round his backside with an oversized I was like, I look scruffy as anything, but no fine, because that was my whole point. You should say smart casual. Probably, yeah, but I was like, mate, it was a £50 fine. I was like, how, like, I was just like, no, I'm not paying £50 for this. No, not happening. I ended up paying a £50 fine, but
it sounds like you're over it though.
Yeah, proper, mate. No, because that was a bad week for fines. I think I got fined about £200 that week, because then we had our it was in pre-season. Oh no, sorry, it was just after the season started, and then we had a Saturday off. So we was told that we were doing an all-dayer in London, like as a team bonding thing. So you get there, and there was like a fines list. If you go home before 10, it's X amount. If you do this, blah blah blah. So I don't drink, right? And I turn up. First thing everyone had to do when they first got there was a shot. If you was late by 5 minutes, it was another shot. If you was late by 10 minutes, it was 2 shots. If you was late by 15, it was 3. And just kept adding up like that. I think I was about 10 minutes late for the meetup, and I was still probably one of the first ones there, right? And said, got to do a shot. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. Don't drink, not doing it. So anyways, I had to try and sneakily way not to do it. And then one of the rules was it was £150 fine if you got caught drinking water. And I was like, mate, bear in mind, yeah, this is like height of summer in London. It was probably about, I'd say 27 degrees at the time. It might not be too much for you over in Australia, but for us, that is
winter.
Tops off, you know what I mean? So anyways, I'm having to walk probably about 2 miles from one location, which is a radio rooftop bar, to a different location. Because I had to go somewhere, because I was that hot. I actually went and picked up and I went and brought another t-shirt, because I had a t-shirt, like a polo one, but it was real tight. So I was like, nah. I went into London, brought another t-shirt, dropped the other stuff off to my mum at work, because she works in London. Then I went and back and met the group at where we was meeting them, and I had to walk like 2 miles. Mate, it was absolutely roasting. So I was like, nah, stuff this. Brought a bottle of water, was there walking. Completely forgot about the rule. Got back to everyone, I had half a bottle of water, and then I was just like, oh, do you know what? Stuff you lot, I'm drinking it. And I started drinking it. Mate, absolute, like, that's £150 fine. I was like, I'm not paying that. You know, I paid £150 fine for drinking water. I was like, on a 27-degree heat? No way.
Mate,
it's just some madness.
You should have got that for going shopping during a team social.
Everyone had sort of started splitting off anyway, but the real reason why I cut, because we was upstairs in Radio Rooftop, and it goes back to your post the other day, right? And it's initiation day.
Yeah.
No chance. You know, not seeing me sing, never in a million years. I've done it once in my whole career. Once.
Mate, you sound like a downer, mate. What's going on?
Nah, it's one of them. Like, put me in front of everyone, and I'll sing in the car. I'll sing, like, even just in the change room. But actually stand me there while everyone's watching. Everyone's like this on their phones. No way.
You just got to commit. You just got to go for it. It's the more you go for it, the less embarrassing it is.
Yeah.
The more you worry about it. We had one a couple of years ago. We went down to like a country town, and the club, I was at this club for 6 years, and every year it'd be the same pre-season kind of, they call it a camp, but you're there for like 2 days, and it's basically 1 day of training and 2 nights out, or 3 nights out, depending on if you get on it on the way up there. And we'd do the initiation songs there. So it was like in this kind of hotel, restaurant, B&B kind of place. And mate, so, like, you just got to jump up on the thing and just hammer it. Like, one guy absolutely nailed it. Do you know Piano Man, Billy Joel?
Yeah.
Made a great song. Brought his own harmonica along as well. Like, nailed the harmonica. But then you got on the flip side of that, guys who are like literally like sweating and shaking, thinking about it. They'll like stand up on the side and no, I can't do it. And it's like, they're the ones that it's the worst for. You just got to dive
I've got
in.
it. I've literally stood there, hands in my pockets going, this is the most awkward thing ever. I've done it once, and I literally sang that Sean Kingston Beautiful Girl song, and it was just the most, I hated it. Literally, absolutely hated it. But then, like, get me, like, being an idiot or cracking stupid jokes, like, no problem. Or singing just in the change room willy-nilly, no worries. But actually stood there doing it. And the thing is that whenever I've been somewhere, it's always public places. And I was like, top of Radio Rooftop Bar. I was like, all these people in there, like, kind of, like, all they worry about superficial. And I was like, no way. Yeah, 100%. You build it up, and then it's, oh, no. And then the worst thing was, one of the lads was unreal. And I was like, I can't go after that. What the? Yeah, I'm like, no, I can't do that. He actually sang 3 times.
Unreal.
Yeah, he sang 3 times. I was like, nah, not for me. Do you know what I mean?
He warmed up the audience, done a performance.
Yeah. And I was about to come on as the comedy value to the act.
I think
pick a number that's like a crowd pleaser, so everybody just joins in with you.
Yeah,
like within the first couple of.
But I'm the type of person that they wouldn't join in with. They would just go on. You know what I mean? Or I would try, and I'd be like, yeah, and then no, they wouldn't do it. It would be even worse.
I hope there's a video of that somewhere, Ryan. I want to see that.
There's a video. I have the video of my one.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna get that out.
You win.
One day. Yeah, I think certainly as I've got older, with things like that, like you kind of come out your shell a lot more, and if, like you said, you just got to find one that everyone's going to join in and sing along to. You just got to commit. I think.
So how hard it is to choose the song. That's the hardest part.
You got to have one in the back pocket ready to go, mate. Yeah. You know the words to it, and like at any given moment, if someone's like song, right, you're going to do it. Robbie Williams, Angels, that's my one.
That's always a good one.
Ready to go.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Right. So next question for you, Els. How was the transition from going from the UK to Australia? Like, is there much difference? Did you take time to settle, etc.?
Yeah, well, I already had experience, right? Because I moved from England to Portugal. So I lived in Portugal on and off for probably 4 years, I think it was. I'd done a couple of years, came back to England, went back out to Portugal. So it wasn't like, it wasn't completely foreign to me going to a different country, and it was almost easier, right? And this is one thing I love, the fact that I went to Portugal, my family moved to Portugal, was because going to a foreign country where you don't speak the language and you manage to succeed, you manage to get a job, start working, make a circle of friends, like friends I've got for life now. Being able to do that in a country where you don't speak the language when you get there, that makes it so easy when you go anywhere else now, because if you can achieve it there, I can do it anywhere, right? So it wasn't completely foreign to me being away, which made it easy. And then also on top of that, when I moved to Australia, I had a friend here already who, funny enough, is from Portugal, and I moved in with him. So I wasn't completely on my own from the start. Anyway, I had a friend, and I live with a couple of people now, and I still live with one of the guys, and the other guy's moving back in very shortly. So it's been pretty easy because I've had a great, I guess, group of friends around me from the get-go. Yeah. But it's definitely something I'd never thought about it. So the reason I ended up in Australia was that I actually got taken to New Zealand. And I don't know if you probably know part of the story with Jim Mann. So do you know Phil Ruggles? Played at Woking?
I know.
So he played at Woking with us, and I don't know how it came around to Jim and him making contact, but Ruggles was in New Zealand playing, and they were looking for some players to come over and play for his team in New Zealand, and got onto Jim, and then that kind of got onto me as well. I'd never even considered travelling at all at that point, and didn't interest me whatsoever. But then the idea of playing football, going away, playing football abroad, it was attractive to me at the time. I was in England. I was working like 3 jobs, had a flat. At the end of the month, you didn't even have like 10 quid to your name. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, what am I staying here for, really? Let's at least go and try something new. So I went to New Zealand, and it turned out everything that kind of was promised would materialise didn't materialise, and I was kind of I was put up by the president of the club, and they were lovely people, but I was in the middle of nowhere with nothing around. Ruggles at the time was down in the South Island, and I was on the North Island. Jim, I think it must have been about 7 days before going, it seems like 7 days or whatever now, but he'd done his ACL.
All right.
So he'd done his ACL, and I think he done his ACL because he met a woman. So I think he purposely done his ACL. And so he didn't come with me either. So I ended up going to New Zealand on my own. And Jim just kept promising, yeah, I've got an open ticket. I've moved my date. I've left it open. I'll come and join you when I've recovered. Still waiting to this day for him to come over and join me. But yeah, so I ended up in New Zealand in the middle of nowhere. And because of everything I'd been promised about, like work, coaching, this, that, the other, there were so many different things, and none of it materialised. I was like, and they took me, I went over just before Christmas. So this would have been my first Christmas away from family. And that's a bit of it's a big, now it's easy, right? We've done it so many times. It's, you don't think twice about it really now. Obviously it's sad, you like to be with family, but at the time it was a massive, massive deal to be away from them. And because I went so early, is because they said season starts in January. So I was like, cool, get there months, time to settle, get into pre-season and hit the ground running. Get there, turns out the season doesn't start till April. Ruggles is down in the South Island until like February time or something like that. Like I was meant to get a coaching gig. There was no coaching gig. She was like, I just finished work. I was working at Sony at the time and doing some other couple of jobs as well. But I'd gone from that and I was like, okay, well, what can I do for work? Like, there's meant to be some coaching work for money, whatever. She's like, oh no, there's in this town I was living in, there was like one pub and one supermarket, which is like your little corner shop type of thing. She's like, oh yeah, there's a job going at the supermarket if you want one. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere on my own with like this couple they were like over 60, so it wasn't even like we were going to go out socialising together or anything. So from there, I was going to come back home, and my mate from Portugal was in Melbourne, said, look, come in, stop and see me for a week before you go. You're going to love Melbourne. And literally I got off the plane, and the drive from the plane to where he was in St Kilda, it was just like, I fell in love with the place straight away. And I think that helped for that whole transition of being in Australia, the fact that it was a step up from where I was in New Zealand. Like New Zealand's a beautiful country, and I never got to see enough of it. But my situation there wasn't amazing. So coming here, where I had a friend, I got a job instantly, integrated with his circle of friends, and whatever. So it was like I went from kind of 0 to 100 very, very quickly, which I think made it a lot easier.
Yeah,
because you do find, having been here now for like 10 years. And playing football, you get a lot of guys from overseas come in, guys from England, America, or wherever. And I've seen quite a few of those guys have the opportunity to stay from one way or another, through work or whatever, for a visa. And they don't take it up because they're like, oh, no, like, missing home, missing friends, family, which you do, and you always do. And I still miss them now, but they just see that. And then when it came to like 3 weeks, maybe even like a month before they were going, they're like, oh fuck, I wish I could stay. Like, how do I get my visa? What can I do? And by that point, it's too late. So a lot of guys come and they do get that missing home thing, and it's tough for them being so far away. But I was lucky that I missed family or whatever. But I think just big picture, I lived it at the time. Then I was in England. My family were in Portugal anyway, so it wasn't like I was living with them.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, look, I'm far better off here as a backpacker in Australia than I was in England, working 3 jobs. So I was like, it was a very positive experience, really, for me.
That's cool. And the footy, what's the footy like out there?
What's the difference?
Well, if you call it footy, it's AFL, which is Australian rules. So I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah, I have actually. At the MCG, funnily enough.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a completely different kettle of fish, right? It's, for me, impressive physically what those guys do.
Yeah.
But I think technically at times they let themselves down. So compared to football. So soccer is what they call it here, but football here, like the standard is far short. We're talking about the professional level, the A-League. It's it's chalk and cheese between that and the Prem, obviously. Who we had, I don't know, someone like Del Piero, right, came and played for Sydney FC, I think he was at, and he was just smoking cigars, mate. He was tearing it up. He was like, pretty much retired at the time, and he was just taking the absolute mickey out of everybody.
I was going to say he was late 30s by then, wasn't he?
Yeah, he would have been like. So the pro game is very different. The standard for the semi-pro league, so under that you've got, so that's like a franchise league, right? So there's no promotion relegation from there. And then all the states and the territories have their own football structure. But generally speaking, you'd have like what they call the NPL, National Premier League, and that's kind of the top of the semi-pro ladder. And you've got some decent footballers there. So some good level, good standard. Probably looking at like the kind of level that you play at, Ryan, I'd say, sort of like Conference South.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some boys, you've probably got boys who could play above that level as well. And who have actually made that step up, made that transition from the NPL to go into play A-League, and then a couple of the boys have gone overseas to like one of the Asian countries or somewhere like that. So you can have a real good standard at the top there of the NPL, and then underneath that, it's still some decent football. And they generally go like NPL, then NPL 1. They just restructured it 1 and 2, depending on what state you're in. And then you've got like your state leagues, which are kind of your, I don't know how to put it, but like your kind of county leagues, really, I guess, essentially, maybe slightly higher than that.
Yeah. So that step kind of 5 and 6 level, you're kind of covering about 3 counties, roughly 3 to 5 counties.
Yeah, so step 5 and 6, what's that? That's like National League and National League South and North, yeah? 5 and 6?
Of the whole pyramid system,
sorry, that's step 2 and 3, right?
Yeah, step 1 and 2, National League, North and South.
1 and 2, cool. So then you've got your NPL is probably like around the 2 to 3, I would say. But you've got players there who are decent players who could play step 1, right? No problem. Then underneath that, you've got like your step 4, which is that's like your Southern League, Isthmian leagues, things like that. Yeah. So then in there, you're probably looking at like MPL2 teams are probably around there. Maybe some of the state league teams as well. Because what's happened over the last few years is there was quite a lot of foreigners coming in and playing at, it used to be called, in the Victoria anyway, it was called the VPL. And they brought in a rule where there was no limit at the time to like your visa players. And they brought in a rule where you can only have 2 visa players now, or at the time. So a lot of the guys who were playing at that level dropped down to like the MPL2 level or the state league level. So what actually happened, it was all to try and encourage youth football. So give more opportunities to young Australian footballers, and rather than handing it all out to us foreigners coming over, right? But then what you found is that level kind of dropped for a while, whilst all those players that were playing VPL that were foreigners kind of dropped down into the state leagues, and that made those leagues stronger. And then we've had a couple of teams over the last few years who have splashed the cash quite a bit, because there is some money to be made playing semi-pro football over here, especially compared to England. You know, the level we get played at, you'd be lucky you'd probably be paying to play at this level in England, I'd say, you know. So the level dropped down, and there's been a couple of clubs that have been splashing the cash and bringing guys over from overseas. There was, at the time in the state leagues, there was no limit, and that was because they were trying to get into the MPL system. So they had guys on, you know, the rumor has it, you know, I don't know how hard facts these are, but there was guys who were like on full-time kind of money, essentially, to play football. We were training 2 nights in a week, 3 nights maybe if you're a club that's taking it a bit more seriously, and then a game day, right? So to kind of stamp that out and again encourage playing youngsters, they brought in the more visa restrictions on the lower leagues as well. So I guess they're trying to encourage youth football, which is good. Young Australians, I don't know that they're going the right way about it 100%, because you don't make better footballers just by lessening the competition, right? So you just make it easier for them to get in there. You still want to have these youngsters playing around the best players that they can be, to learn from the best and to push themselves. So I don't know if they're really going around it the right way, but it is what they're doing. I'd say that's kind of the equivalent level, but it's always hard to say. Do you know what I mean? I haven't been over there and played at that level now for like 10 years, and I'm sure things have changed a lot since I've been over there.
A little bit. I suppose comparing when we used to play together, the standard of football is definitely higher. Like, you got a lot more kind of kids coming through academies, but they're also used to playing on like better pitches, certainly artificial pitches. So when they come to a muddy, wobbly, if it's in the summer, not so welcoming stadium, shall we say, then and they just want to play football all the time because that's their upbringing. And that at our level, it's not always going to be possible. And you know, certainly sometimes you kind of quite like playing against teams like that, because you can just let them make their mistakes. They're easy to play against. So
that's what we find really. Like, so at the MPL level, it's very structured football, and it's almost easier to play against those teams because you know how they're going to play and how they're going to move the ball. Whereas when you get down to the state league level, and you know, maybe even some of the MPL2 teams, it's just chaos football. You know, it's all just reaction. Like, so it's sometimes harder to play against those.
Like being back at school again.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So it's interesting you're talking about kind of youth football there, because obviously you work an academy as well. Is that right? Out there, kind of coaching.
Yeah. So I don't coach anymore. I haven't coached for quite a while now, but I'm a national operations manager of a sports academy, and our flagship brand is Soccer is Football.
Yeah, amazing. So what's kind of what's their ethos, their football ethos like? Yeah,
well, we're not a club, we're not a team, we don't compete. So it's all skills acquisition for us, really. So for us, it's all about small group numbers. All of our coaches have to be qualified coaches as well. So you know, it's great. Sport wouldn't exist without the volunteers, without your parents, your mums, dads, all the rest of it, putting their hand up and taking teams. But they don't, you know, they don't necessarily know the best ways or the right things that how to deliver some good sessions, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say. But so all of our coaches have to be qualified in their sport, and then you're keeping those numbers minimal so you can get a lot of interaction with the coach one-on-one. We do one-on-one sessions, but for us, it's like 12 to 1, 12 kids to one coach really is kind of our number that works quite nicely. And then it's just as many, everyone has their own ball, all warm-ups. There's no standing in lines, no running up and down, stretching. I mean, everything's with the ball, all the warm-up, as many touches as possible. I think, that's probably the world over now, right? I don't think we're any different with that.
So talking about the academy, you mentioned like you don't play games, and there's kind of lots of touches. So are they mainly like youngsters, or is it like all age groups? What's kind of the? Yeah,
so we I guess for us the bulk of our kids is the 5 to 7 year old range.
Yeah.
But we go all the way up to probably 16. It's probably the oldest that we have at the moment. But we actually start at 1, so we have a preschool program called Soccer Time Kids.
Wow.
And that it's great fun. It's amazing. When I used to coach in there, and it was you couldn't believe people were paying you to do it. It was just being a clown for like 3 hours every morning, which was great. And that's obviously just all about movement, getting them aware of their body, balance, skipping, hopping, jumping. Standing up for the 1 year olds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
5 to 7 is really where the football starts for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some players I play with now that can't stand up, so yes, important skill to learn early. So obviously, Ryan, with your coaching, you coach 16 to 18-year-old lads, so see slightly different dynamic. But can you even see kind of, I suppose, gaps in their education when they come to you that there are things that they could have learned earlier on? Have I opened up a can of worms?
Massively. Oh, mate. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I've done a little bit of coaching with the sort of age range that obviously Elliott's talking about as well. Me personally, I actually find that more difficult just from the sense of they don't have much of a grounding, and not in an arrogant way, but I feel like the hardest thing for me to do is sort of dumb myself down, if that makes sense. So almost take it, like pull back everything and then bang, start from the beginning. So I enjoyed it, but I don't think I've done well in those sorts of ages. Now, obviously, I'm with the older ages. I find it easier because even just from like an understanding point of view, or like just the information that you're giving,
engagement as well is tough.
Yeah, massively that as well, 100%. And even just like the vocabulary you can use. So like you can use the more complex sort of details of football and stuff. And I said to a 7-year-old, "Oh, penetration there." They were like, "What?" So you kind of like even the little things of changing penetration to running with the ball there, or or like basically doing something to get you closer to goal, which might be easy to understand. But that was something that it wasn't easy for me to change. But yeah, 100%. I mean, I can sort of vouch. So my upbringing within playing and then obviously coaching has been very cultural. So it's not been like mainstream English, do this, do that, all the quick. I hate all the quick feet stuff that this country does, because you go through ladders, you go through cones, you go through poles, and the movements are never specific really with football, in my opinion anyway. When in football, do you ever have 2 feet go like that all the time? And then also at the same time, as if I said to you guys, I go, "Oh, right, Ian, you're going to go through that ladder, 2 foot in each one." Or Elliott, you're going to go through that ladder, 1 foot in each one. Before you do it, you know what you're doing. So it just becomes like there's nothing, you haven't got to use your mind or use your brain. Whereas if, say, like, I'm like, we want to work forwards and backwards, right? So I go, right, you two stand side by side. Ian, you're going to lead. Elliott, you're going to follow. Now you've got that. You're always reacting to that stimulus. So if Elliott's following, he's now always reacting to you, which is a stimulus. Stimulus could be an opposition player, could be the ball, it could be even just communication. But you're always reacting. Never in football do you know, I get the ball and what I can do this without having to react to something. Even if I got the ball, if someone comes into me, I have to react to. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's me personally. I don't like all that sort of stuff. But I understand it from a point of view, because the funny thing is, I'm kind of going off topic here, but a guy that I know had the same upbringing, because we come through that kind of upbringing together with the same mentor. He then went and set up his own sports company through schools. And he's gone completely against everything that he was brought up into, just because he knows from a company point of view, parents love structure. So if they look and they see, oh, that's structure and that's amazing, they're like, oh, this must be brilliant. Whereas if he was to be a little bit more, say, chaotic but more realistic, they would be like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? So he's changed the way he does things. He still has the same beliefs, but he changed the way he does things because he knows that he has to perception. Yeah, 100%. And I think I understand it, but then I also think maybe what you can do is you can then be the first coaching company that does it like this, but then his next job is to making sure that he explains to the parents why it's like this. Do you know what I mean? So he's actually helping them. So going back to the question of, do I find there's a gap? Massively, because like you said, listen, you wouldn't be able to get sport. You wouldn't be able to play the football and stuff like that without, like you said, the volunteers, the parents, and people like that. And listen, when I grew up, my dad used to be my coach along with another dad. So I was quite thankful that my dad was always trying to learn and trying to, develop himself. So that was quite a good thing for me. But I've seen some sessions and you might have kids of like 13, all have a ball. There's the goal. Stand in a straight line, pass, set, shoot. And that's what they're doing for an hour and a half of a session. And I'm like,
and then the coaches in the middle doing the layoff as well. So there's another.
Yeah, exactly. So they're literally doing nothing. They're maybe doing one touch on the pass and then one touch on the shot every 2 minutes. And that's like, okay, you do that for say 10 minutes. You're touching the ball, not even 20 times or whatever. So yeah, it's just a bit. Yeah. So when they come to me, I feel that the one thing that is a massive lack, and I've got it from the boys this year, is the ones that are good or the ones that are technically better are the ones that you would see out and about in the parks playing football with the kids. So they've naturally just got that over touches and just time where they spent with a football and stuff like that. But then there's also the kids that come to me. I had a kid come to me last year. What position do you play? Left back. And I'm watching him play. Guess what foot he's using? He's right. I'm like, so how are you left back? You're not left-footed. You're right-footed. And so that big thing is their lack of understanding or their lack of positioning or their lack of I have to cover it. Like literally just the lack of knowledge or information that they have of the game for me is probably the biggest difference between when they grow up through grassroots to when they come to a kind of a decent sort of level of academy. That's probably the one thing that I found the hardest, not the hardest, but the one thing that I've had to focus on a lot this year. So even like the beginning of the year, we made one big punt downfield and we missed the header because they've never been taught how to time it, to come back off, to come forward, little things like that. And then the other person next to him hasn't been taught to cover and the reasons why. All of a sudden we're conceding like very silly goals, but it's not through a fault of the players because they've never been educated. And I used to say this to them all the time. Listen, I'm not having to go, it's not your fault. You've not been educated. This is now my job. But it makes my job harder because you're having to educate them on things that maybe they should have known from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I would say that's the biggest thing. I also, and the other two things, which relates back to one of what you said a minute ago, Elliott, is I'll get to that one last, but is also when the boys play grassroots, it's always about who's the best player, who's the best this. So basically, give the ball to the best player, and he'll go do the work. And I had one lad, you come across him, Ian, and absolutely rapid. Could, with the right training, right coaching, could actually be a really big handful just because of his sheer physical pace and stuff like that. And he's come on a lot this year, but he was technically not the best. So what you would do is technically you'd work with him and you make him better, make him more comfortable, which we've done this year, and he has got better and better as the year's gone on. But because people weren't understanding from a grassroots point of view what his strengths were, they were trying to get him to conform and play the same way as somebody that was technically very, very good. And then he wasn't able to execute that as well. So therefore, you're rubbish, you're this, you're that, you're never good, you can't even get in my team. And he was only like 16. He come to me and he said, I was told that I'm the worst footballer, blah, blah, blah. He come to me and he's not, but the focus isn't on, you're expecting Messi to do Peter Crouch job or Crouchy to do a Messi job. You can't, you've got to understand the difference behind them all. So that was quite difficult because how can you tell a 15-year-old that he's rubbish at football when you've not actually given him the opportunity or to actually go and thrive. You know, you've got wingers like Antonio Valencia. He's not a bad winger just because he can't be the same winger as Eden Hazard. Do you know what I mean? They're different types. So that was a bit of a struggle. And then the last thing, just going back to what you were saying, sort of, I suppose, from your age range of 1 to 7, is that movement. I find massively. So movement is something that, from where I stand, it has to be done from very early. Even when it comes down to like your mobility of the spine and everything else from crawling and all this sort of stuff, all the way through to probably when they're like 22, because you've got growth spurts where as soon as you grow, your coordination goes on. Listen, my brother's 6'5", right? He's just not coordinated because he's never. I mean, he might have done loads of stuff, and then what people don't understand is you can do all this movement stuff. Great. As soon as you go through a growth spurt, you have to do it. Right? Yeah, you've got to basically redo your body and like redo the coordination stuff. And then once you, and my opinion is, once you can move better, everything else becomes easier. If you can't move correctly, everything's going to be so much harder, you know? So it's almost like if you've got two like clogs, I suppose. If one's not moving as like right, they're not going to, do you know what I mean, twine together if they're both moving. And so that's another thing for me. And it comes down to, you know, the three sort of guides that I use and I got educated on is obviously like sagittal movement, transverse movement, and frontal. So like those three movements, and football is one of the only sports that incorporates all three. So forwards and backwards, side to side, twisting and turning, you know, although when you look at it frontal, you'd expect to be forwards and backwards, but it's not, it's side to side. So, but football's one of the only ones that uses all three. So you have to train all three all the time. Whereas if you're looking at rugby is very much what? Forwards and backwards, really. A little bit of side to side, zero transfer, you know? So in football, you have to train those things, in my opinion, to make them better, to make them be able to move their feet. And also you got to look at stuff like center of gravity. How far can they step away from their body and maintain power, strength, stability, you know, and these little things are so important. How many kids do you see go in, shut someone down, take a big lunge, and then all of us, I'm actually doing the actions while I'm talking, and actually then be able to push off and go somewhere else. So those things of acceleration, deceleration, getting away from those big lunges, you know what I mean? Those real things, I think they need to be coached all the time leading up, as well as almost the trainers. So it might be 10 minutes at the start of a session, do it. Do you know what I mean? But that 10 minutes every day, that's going to be such a big thing in the long run. And it's going to make the rest of the session easier. Do you know what I mean?
100%. You need the movement. You need to make athletes before you make sport-specific players. Do you know what I mean? They need to be able to move. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, coming from the industry that I come from, you know, they're kind of basic movements that you're teaching people just on a day-to-day basis to try and stop them from injuring themselves. Just from real basic things like running and picking stuff up, let alone when you start looking at, you know, what goes on a football pitch or a sports field in general, for that matter.
The amount of force that you're going to, when you start playing at full speed, and the amount of force that's going to go through your body, if you can't move properly, you're definitely getting. And
obviously, you start looking at overcompensations and things like that. That's where injuries will start happening. So, yeah, like it's a massive thing in sport. So yeah, completely.
We do that. We have a focus on that so we have elements of it with obviously the whole preschool program is all about movement and everything anyway, and colours, numbers, literacy, all that kind of stuff. But then when we get to our 5 to the football specific programs, we then have elements of it. And as they get, you know, obviously the younger ones, it's all about fun. You want to keep them engaged or whatever. So you don't want to make it boring for them or anything, but there's obviously elements that you mix in. But then as they get a bit older and you're able to do a little bit more focused stuff, we actually have like dedicated points in our sessions where we cover that, you know, how to move properly, how to squat, how to lunge, how to take off. Yeah. I
think as well, so like if you think back to growing up, and we've probably all done it, you go to the park with your mates, you've got 2 jumpers down for goalposts, right? Or you get some sticks, or you put your bikes down, whatever. At any stage, did any of us ever wear bibs? Never, literally never. But you always knew who was on your team. You always knew who was shooting which way. And then all of a sudden you go into like a football setup, and now it's bibs. So all of a sudden, like even just that small thing, you're taking away like a problem solving from someone, if that makes sense, or the thinking process, the brain side of it. So obviously, I'm a very big advocate of, yes, you play football with your feet, but they're only there to execute what your brain's saying. So if you're not training the brain, if you're not engaging the brain while you're training, or you're not making the player solve those problems or come up with a solution, they're never really actually having to think. I've got boys that are with me now, and they've never had to think ever. They've never had to solve solutions. They've just been told, do this. Even if it's not been verbally spoken, even if it's yellows versus oranges, you do this. This is who you pass to and stuff like that. And then they come to me and it's like, cool, problem solve. And they're like, and then literally like, there's one lad, he looks to me all the time. Like even when he talks and he says something, look at me. As if I need to give him approval of what he said, like, yes, that's right. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, it grates on me, but again, it's not his fault. But you've got to try and give them.
That's your problem now, so, right? How do you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Cheers, everyone that's built him up for the last 16 years. I'll pick up the pieces. But yeah, so it's even little things like that. Not wearing bibs, like it's making the mind think. So I go back to again when I was growing up and stuff, and this guy, his name is Mick Critchell, and he's unbelievable. And we'd be training, and yeah, there'd be times we'd have bibs on and stuff, but he'd have red bibs. And every bib would have like a different shape on it, right? And then he'd have yellow bibs and then a different shape. And then one game you're playing reds v yellows, then the next game you're playing triangles v squares, and little things like that. So even like I might have a triangle and be a red bib, and then you might have a triangle and be a yellow bib, but we're on the same team because we're trying. Do you know what I mean? So it was just constantly making you think, making you like look up, be aware of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like nowadays a lot of that goes missing. That a lot of that let's work the brain, let's do that, do you know what I mean? It's not there. It's all about, oh, let's pass, let's move, let's not necessarily move, but let's pass, let's tackle, let's run, let's shoot. And then all of a sudden that's great, but those things will come naturally. I could whack you, we could all stay in the garden, kick a ball all the time, touch that ball every single day, and we will naturally improve. The things that will make us stand out, and there's players at my level, and there'll be players at the levels you guys play that unbelievably technically or unbelievably ability-wise, but they just can't push up because the decision-making is not good or their problem-solving is not good. So that thing that sometimes can actually put you to higher levels is that thing of decision-making or that problem-solving. And I think you look at it, and he said to me once, he was like, someone like Paul Scholes has over 100 decisions to make every time he gets the ball. But the best players in the world are the ones that can focus on the 3 key ones and block out the rest. So even little things like, do I take a touch with my right foot, left foot, touch it, how far do I, like you make so many decisions in a game that if you're not used to problem solving, you're gonna be very slow in everything that you do. I actually think that's a massive thing that is, it's not, you never see it in like grassroots, we never see it in growing up. It's very much, and like I said, you get it because without these volunteers and stuff, you know, you'd never have football. But then sometime, I feel like there's someone that's got to try and help them. So with what we do in the academy, we're linked in with Binfield, not like an affiliation like we filter through, but that's like a link with what we've got, right? And we've turned around and said that we will put on a session for all the coaches throughout their whole academy. And basically myself and the other coach will go in and we'll educate them on the things that we've just spoken about and why they're so forth. And a lot of people have been, yeah, amazing, love to do that. And then some people are like, nah, I know what, you know what I mean? You get those ones every now and again.
Stuff. So we'll support local clubs and or clubs that we'll work with, and we'll do coach to coaches sessions. So exactly what you're saying. We've done various things where we'll get the coach can come in and, you know, give us key things that he wants to work on. What has he identified for his team? And then we'll take him through a session on how we would deliver that for him to how it would be done. And then we would go and watch some of their games and then look at how they're giving feedback at half time. What are they picking up in games as well? So we try to support the clubs that we work with by giving opportunity for their coaches, who are majority parents, to upskill. Unfortunately, you also see on the other side of it, though, like there's obviously keen coaches that dive in and love all that kind of stuff, but then you've got the ones who just don't care and they're just doing it so their kid can play. Of course. No part on it. So, and it's hard, right? Because they're volunteering. I'm sure they're busy. They've got kids. They're doing everything else. they probably don't want to give up that night to come in, and if they're not passionate about it, they're just doing it for the sake of their kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a battle, mate. It's an ongoing battle that we're all fighting, I guess.
I think what it shows is certainly there's a place for different types of coaches all the way through the development of a kid. There'll be guys that will specialise in their movement, and there'll be guys that specialise more, I suppose, from a tactical perspective later on, technical in between. And I think it's important having an education in all those different aspects all the way through through their education as they're growing up. And it's not going to say that they should learn this and only this. There's a place for everything, and I think if they can improve their kind of their skill set right from an early age in terms of their movement, and then technically as they go on to eventually tactically.
Yeah, but it's like
for different roles,
It's like when you're younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kids that always stand out are the ones that are like the big, strong kids, like the absolute bruisers, always do well, and they're like coming through like young ages, right? And then there comes an age where their movement is like that now stops them from actually carrying on being like head and shoulders above certain people. So you might get that one kid who can kick it further, can shoot, scores all the goals, but like we're looking at like 7, 8 sort of age, and then all of a sudden, like he gets to a point, maybe 10, 11, 12, where everyone can shoot now, everyone can kick it that hard. So all of a sudden now he's been caught up, and his movement now is where it's lacking. I'm going to forget it. I must have been about 10, and I remember playing a game, and it was like 7-a-side. I used to play for a team called like Kempshot Kestrels, right, which is local to where I am. I used to play a year above. We played a team, and it's the first time I'd ever seen someone wear shin pads outside of their socks. I was like, and this kid was like quite a bit, literally a bruiser, and I was like, I said to him, I said, why do you wear a shin pad outside socks? And the geezer just went, he's a bruiser. He's a bruiser. And literally I was like, oh my God. And the kid was like, not in a horrible way, it was a bit of a chubby kid, right? And that year we played, and for example, he was like, just because he could kick the ball bigger, he was just physically stronger than everyone. He was all right. We played against him 2 years later, still the same, still got shin pads outside of his socks, looked like an absolute donut. And then all of a sudden, we was a lot taller. My movement's always been something that's I've had done since I was a little kid. My dad, went out of his way to make sure that was done, and the rest of my team as well. And then all of a sudden, mate, he was the worst player on the pitch because he was still this bruiser, relying on being that much bigger, stronger than people. And now as you get older, all those other elements come into it, and you just can't. You just couldn't do it. So yeah, I think for me it is a massive thing, and I have arguments with friends all the time. Me personally, if I'm going to be at a football club or something like that, I want to have a coach that specialises in movement. And my mate's like, why? Why can't you just, like, for example, if I'm just talking about an everyday person, why can't you just do it? And I'm like, well, I can because I know it. But if you say someone that comes in that doesn't understand it, they can't do it. And he's like, yeah, but why not? And I was just like, because, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I even go back to when I was a pro, mate, the sessions we would do, the SAQ sessions through ladders, through poles, through cones. And they still do it now. You still get teams on the Prem that still do all of that stuff, and there was an experiment that went on at, I think it was either Fulham or Palace, when a guy called Kit Simons was in. So Kit works very close with the guy, my mentor, right? And they would do 20 minutes every single day on this movement work, all this movement work. And he said to the player, they'd done all that for about 7 weeks, and they found that it was so much like the movement, the performances, the little things like getting to that ball by that little millisecond or whatever was so much better. And then they stopped it for 2 weeks, and then you saw a massive decline in those areas again as well. Don't get me wrong, I think Kit got the sack about 7 months in, but it was a bit of an experiment that was kind of went on through that stage. And it's the same with if you get kids playing 11v11, how many times in a training session will that kid touch the ball? From a young age, there comes a time and a place for it as they get older, I think. But if you got 5v5, is that better than maybe a 2v2? Do you know what I mean? From a younger age group type thing, because 5v5, you know what it's like. You'll always get that one kid on your team, especially when you're kids, immature. You don't, he's rubbish, don't want to pass him the ball. And then he touches the ball maybe 5 times in 10 minutes. And then you got one kid who's really good, but just never passes, touching the ball like 300 times or something. And then all of a sudden it becomes an issue where 2v2, you have no choice. Do you know what I mean? You have to pass that ball, and you have to always have touches, because otherwise you're going to get battered. So So yeah.
I agree. Yeah. We are kind of moving on time a bit, and I really want to talk to Elliott about your football agency, or your online agency. We had a little chat about it last week, and it sounds awesome, really, what you're doing. So you just talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I guess taking it all the way back, where it originated from was, I kind of touched on it briefly earlier, was from my own experience, right, of going out to New Zealand. So I, and from that point to where I am now, so I would never have thought about going overseas to play football. Like coming up in England, I think majority of English players, maybe not so much nowadays, it's becoming a bit more known or whatever, but it's, you want to play in England, you're going to make it in England or it's over, right? You're not going to play anywhere. So I never thought about going to New Zealand at all, or going to another country to play. Then having gone through it, ended up in Australia, seeing how amazing Australia is as a country, the lifestyle I've had, how far better off I've been from a general life as well as in football. And then the level, that over here at the moment, probably I don't know if I should be saying it or not, but the money that you can earn from football at the level that you're playing at is just ridiculous. And then through my journey there, I've encountered players from overseas who, same type of situation, American lads, English lads or whatever, all saying the same kind of thing, right? They didn't realise about the opportunity to play anywhere else, how much better the lifestyle is, all the rest of it, right? So all of it for me, I was like, I just felt like I needed to share that message to people about, look, just because you haven't made it in England doesn't mean that football's over, right? You can come out to wherever it is and have a whole new life experience, which could change your life, like it has for me. I've been here 10 years now, right? A citizen in Australia, don't plan on ever going back to England. So it's changed my life, yeah? So it must have been, I don't know, maybe must have been 5 years ago now. I started helping guys one-on-one. So I was basically the middleman between teams and players, clubs who are looking for players. I'd go find them a player. I would then help the player get over to Australia. So flights, visas, accommodation. I would help sort them out work. Because what I found was that the path I went, I realised, if all of a sudden the club falls out, you fall out of favour with the club or whatever happens. Because what I left out my story earlier was that in New Zealand, when I went back to New Zealand, because all my stuff was there, to pick that up, and I said to them, look, I'm not going to stay and play for you anymore because of this, that, and the other. I'm going to Melbourne. They literally picked me up, took me to the town, and dumped me there and left me. And I had to work out where I was going to stay, how I was going to get back to Australia, all the rest of it, right? So very quickly, I found that if you fall out of favour with the club, things can go south very, very quickly for you. So I wanted to offer that level of protection to the players. So my original, what I was doing, I was very hands-on with everything, and I would bring players over and I would be the contact between the clubs. So I would look after them. I would find them work. I would find them accommodation. I would do all of that kind of stuff. And trying to scale that is obviously, it's not an easy task being so hands-on. So then I looked at how can I take myself out of this situation, right? And how can I just connect the two people? Going through the football communities and all the rest of it, there's coaches are always looking for decent players. Doesn't matter what level they're at, everyone always wants to strengthen their team, right? They don't necessarily know where to go find their players outside of their own football community, their own football circle. Obviously in football, it's all about networking. We've all got contacts here, there, the other, but if your contacts don't have anybody, where do they go? And then from a player point of view is how do you find these opportunities? How do you find out if there's a club in Australia that are looking for someone? And there's more and more companies doing it now. The guys that might be do the scholarships to America and that kind of thing, they've started. There's been a few more of them now branching out and placing guys here, here in Scandinavian countries, in maybe Spain, places like that as well. But that's still not that many people, right? So if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. So for me, it was right, how can I help the players? Because there's a lot of talented players out there that are not playing, who are giving up the game because they haven't made it at the pro club, or, they've been ditched from the academy and they're, they think life's over and all the rest of it, who aren't being told about these opportunities elsewhere. And then you've got the coaches who are looking for these players. So what I'd done is I went away and I built a an online platform, which is like a networking platform essentially. So players can go on there for free. You can create your own profile, your own CV. You can upload your highlights, put in your career stats, your personal stats, your sprint speeds, all that kind of stuff, right? And then coaches likewise can create their own profiles about their clubs, and they can then post out, I guess, playing opportunities into our network. So we have like an opportunity network. The coaches can post something out, and all the players, if you meet their criteria, you'll get notified about it. And at the same time, players can, for the guys who really want to make it in the game, understand that, the opportunities aren't going to come and knock on your door. You've got to go and find those opportunities, and you've got to go work them. So for those guys, they can also go and network with the coaches, and it's all in this one centralized place. You haven't got to go trawling through like I was doing when I came to Australia. It was like, I didn't know the name of the leagues, I didn't know the clubs, I didn't know the coaches. I was literally going through the internet, through Facebook, going trying to find like, okay, where's this club? Okay, there's the club I'm playing football. What's the name of that club? Right. Okay, what's the league? Like I was, I spent hours and hours trying to hunt down these people who coaches who like, can you give me a number for this person? Whatever, right? So to try and save everybody's time, make things a lot more efficient, more easier for them, I've made this network now where players have their CV, their online CV. They can have a profile. They can connect with coaches. They can message each other, and then I've taken myself out of it. I don't now offer, I don't assist people with accommodation. I'm happy to help people where I can if they want any advice on things, but I'm not hands-on with any of it anymore. It's more that they will now connect with the coaches, or the coaches will reach out to the players and recruit them that way. And we've placed quite a few guys now in Australia using that, which is exciting to see it actually work. When you take an idea from something in your head to actually be in, to build the thing, to develop the platform, and then to see it work,
So obviously if you put them in touch, which sounds amazing, how would they then be able to source like accommodation and things like that? If obviously someone's not doing it.
Yeah, so this is kind of where I come into that now, is like the education to the people on the platform. So for players' point of view, it's me saying, look, these are the type of things you want to be asking anybody, right? You want to make sure you've got this ticked off, this ticked off, this ticked off before you commit to anything. And then from a coach's point of view, it's like, look, if you're going to come onto the platform, these are the kind of the expectations, right? You just be open about what you're going to do. Not all coaches can offer you work. Not all coaches can offer you accommodation. Maybe some can. So these are the type of things you need to detail in your offering and your opportunity that you're putting out there. We've looked at things. I have got like contracts drawn up, kind of agreements that coaches would sign and players would sign, and those were used when I was more hands-on. And at the end of the day, the guys are going to break the agreement. They're going to break the agreement. It's what are you going to do with those kind of people? Do you know what I mean? But we do what we can to try and protect the players, and the people that we've got on the platform at the moment have all, they're all, I guess.
To what they say.
Yeah, they're all genuine, honest people. We've avoided the ones who've got a reputation for kind of leading you down the garden path.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Obviously, someone like yourself who went to New Zealand and everything you was promised just wasn't fulfilled. That's what I was sort of thinking, is how would you then ensure that it doesn't happen through like your platform, because the last thing obviously you want is someone to come through and then, oh, hold on a minute, because then it's a reflection that comes back to you in the end.
Yeah, 100%. And that was for me, was the fear about giving up that the hands-on approach for it was like, by doing that, yes, I can reach more people, but I'm going to sacrifice the quality control. And that is something, I guess, at the end of the day, it's going to happen. It's more for me about focusing the education on the people coming onto the platform about expectations and being clear in your offering. And then if like a player comes back and reports, well, hang on a minute, this is what's happened. Well, you're not on the platform anymore. You're going to be removed from the platform. Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where hopefully the idea is it's a bit self-governing. So if there are any, because likewise a player can also do the same thing to a club, right? They can
commit to lie and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then not rock up, and I haven't had that through the platform, but just through people who I know and played with over here, the exact type of thing. They committed to a club, the club brought them out to Australia, and then they landed and they went and signed at another club because they offered them more money.
Yeah.
So definitely happens. It's but again, it's the same type of thing, right? If you're found to be doing that kind of stuff and it gets reported to us, do what
So
we
if
can.
say like a player come out, right, and like we're saying that a similar thing that happened to you in New Zealand sort of happened, was that be then maybe when you would kind of take the odd hands-on approach just to make sure that
100%.
was sorted?
Yeah, 100%. So I said I'm not hands-on. That's a bit of a lie, right? So
unless almost you have to be, I guess.
Yeah, I would 100% would be like that for sure. And I've been doing it already with, not because people have been lied to or anything, but obviously it's a new platform trying to grow it. So the idea is that we want everybody on there to be networking, which is happening anyway. But I still have coaches who reach out to me personally, and I'll still personally go and find players for them and then arrange the stuff and bring them over. So that's still happening. And if someone was to get placed through our platform and then things go south, 100% we would be on there to support them and be like, right, what do we need to do to make things right? Find you another club. Can we place you somewhere else? So definitely.
Sorry, and I'll just smash you with questions. If say because obviously for me, obviously with what we did, there's always going to be kids that are we're always looking for opportunities and stuff that are different to say others to make us stand out and stuff. And I know there's a couple of kids that even within my lot would be open to something like that. So obviously when you was more hands-on, like I said, you would sort out the job, you sort out the accommodation, you do all of that. So what would say an average sort of situation be in terms of like if a lad was to go out there, what would be sort of the average kind of without being specific, like sort of wage you would get with it? Like then would you have to do a job? What would they like? How would that sort of
so generally speaking, so obviously every club is unique because of their sponsorship, their situation with finances, what's their ambitions for the league, blah blah, all the rest of it, right? So it is just general what I'm going to say, but majority of people you're going to work as well as play. All right. So generally speaking, you could be picking up for a wage for like a state league team. You could pick up anywhere from say $100 being the low end to there'll be players playing in the state league at the top end picking up $800. Right now, obviously you're not going to walk in from not being known at all. Pick up $800. Right. These players have got reputations. They've proven they can do it in this league. Players, people know them, and the reason they're getting paid that money is because there's clubs after them. So realistically, you're not going to come in and pick up that money straight off the bat. But it's such a small community for football that you might come in and, it might be at Club X or whatever, right? And you're picking up a couple of hundred a week and you're working a job as well. Nice lifestyle. You're living the life on the beach or whatever it is in Australia, banging a couple of goals. And next thing you know, you're getting knocks on the door from the NPL clubs, right? And there's guys at that level there who are picking up a couple of thousand a week. And then they're working on top of that. And you've got to think that the hourly wage in Australia is very favourable to the worker compared to, in England, right? So there's some decent money being earned by these players.
You're saying that, players can have a real good lifestyle out there. What for you has probably been the kind of the biggest, what's the word I'm trying to use here? Kind of wow factor for you, the biggest thing that you've thought, I didn't even know that, and it'd be the one thing you tell everyone about if they're in this similar opportunity as you were when you first went over.
I just think it's an amazing life experience. So I think that the whole thing was a wow factor, really, right? So you get a chance to. I used to hate it, right? Where your friends would go away traveling. So I was never one of these who was interested in traveling. And then they come back and they were like, oh, they've seen the world, they know the bit, and they're telling everybody who's like how things should be done, all the rest of it, and how amazing they are, knowledgeable, right? They used to wind me up. But now I kind of understand where they're coming from, right? So you go to another country, you see another culture, some life experience, being away from home, being away from friends, being away from family. Specifically to my story about Australia, the lifestyle is far superior out here. You have such a better lifestyle than you do compared to my life in England, what it was. Was a pretty decent job working for Sony. I was doing three jobs in total just to try and make ends meet. Had no money at the end of the month, like getting paid like peanuts for football, really. Nothing, compared to what I'm doing over here, where football is more than paying the rent, no problem. You got working a job. Obviously, it helps that I love my job working at a sports academy as well as doing my own thing with the players. So obviously, I have a good experience with that. But the whole lifestyle that you get with Australia, it's a much more relaxed life, You know, it's the culture of Australia is, I feel like England is very much a rat race, right? Every time I go back, everybody is head down, grafting, no time for anything else, got to pay bills, all the rest of it. Whereas I don't have that feeling when I come to Australia. And it's to the point where like, I'll go back to England now and I'll get off the plane and I just feel it. You're just like, oh, you just feel the energy. Like,
drain you straight away from when you work out to see everything 100 mile an hour.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, obviously it depends on where you come into Australia, right? Because if you go up to Queensland or somewhere like that, then it's a very relaxed lifestyle. It's a beach lifestyle, but you know, they're up at 5 a.m, but they're in bed by 7, 8 o'clock at night. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a different lifestyle to Melbourne.
Perfect,
Melbourne, yeah, that's right, rally maybe. Melbourne's reminds me like East London kind of thing. It's real kind of trendy, cool bar, laneways. You know, there's not really any sightseeing tourist sites like in Sydney or whatever. But it's more about the culture and the experience of like the restaurants, the bars, all the rest of it. Yeah. So it depends on where you go in Australia to exactly what you're going to get. But for me, even outside of Australia, I played in Portugal for a while, and living in Portugal, you know, that's, for me, has made me stronger and better as a person, because now I feel no matter where I go or what I do, I can be successful at it. If I've made it and done it in a country where I couldn't speak the language, I can do it anywhere, right? Yeah. So, and now I've made friends for life from there. So, for me, it's the whole experience, not necessarily.
The weather helps, right?
Say again, sorry?
The weather helps, right?
Well, being in Melbourne, at least you know you're going to get a summer, but the winter is kind of like England. So, trying to keep my roots a little bit.
Good stuff, man. But I could chat to you all day, mate. It's I find it so interesting and exciting. But I feel like I've taken a lot of you guys' time already this morning. So
yeah, well, it's
probably because I just ramble on. Just quickly, so before we do go, Elliott, can you I don't know if it's your website or anything, so if anyone that's over here wants to check it out, anyone that comes across, because I know that there'll be, for me, working in my academy, and it's about giving these boys as many opportunities as possible, from obviously the America stuff, the New Zealand stuff, to Australia, to I think we even speak to like Japan, to university over here, to just
100%. And just to be clear as well, like I bang on a lot about Australia, right? Because that's my personal experience, my reality. I've been through it and done it, right? But the coaches on the platform aren't just Australia. We've got professional coaches in there from Asia. We've got guys in there from Scandinavian countries like pro leagues. So like the opportunities for playing is literally global, hence the name, right? But it's not just in Australia. I just always talk Australia because it's my first-hand experience, right? But so more, I'd even love to chat to you guys if you want to set up a time and maybe we do like a webinar or something like that, whatever. And I can give them a bit of a presentation on just opening their eyes to what is out there beyond their own four walls, right? So if anyone wants to check us out, Instagram, we are playawayglobal_ So playawayglobal_ The website is Play Away Global. I'll put it on here for you. Play Away Global.
Oh, that explains your kit now. Here's me. I have Jameson Carter. I feel like I should be repping some sort of brand because you still got your own brands on.
Yeah, fitness clinic. Yeah.
So yeah, we're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We've got Facebook as well and Twitter. Not so active on Twitter or Facebook too much, to be honest with you. Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, I found you. Use my old club as your last post.
Is that right?
Yeah,
is it you?
Yeah. No, I'm not in there. That was about 2 years after I left.
Mate.
Same things though, mate. That's been same things that.
Give me some of your highlights to share here. You're gonna have to smile. I'm gonna put you on there now. Do you guys have a name for this chat that I can tag you in?
We don't actually, do we?
Ask Ian. No. Ian just puts it up. Ryan and Ian. Episode 3.
Right, give me your Instagrams then, and I'll tag you in them.
I've just followed your one. So my academy one is literally Get Active Academy. And then I'll whack it on ours as well, and then we'll reach out. And then my personal one is just Ryan Case 27. Ryan Case. Yeah. Do you know the worst thing about my last name, right? It's so easy to spell, right? Do you know how many times I have to tell people it's C-A-S-E, not K-A-S-E?
Really?
I nailed it. I nailed it with the C first time.
And then the worst thing is you have to then go, pencil case. Like you have to actually almost take the mick at yourself to make people understand.
It sounds like you're just getting ripped into by everybody.
Well, you know me, mate. One of them things. If you can't laugh at yourself, you can't. You're going to be miserable.
100%. Ian, what's yours, mate? I forget.
Instagram Ian_Davis1809. And because I'm using Facebook a lot more. What I'm doing, I'll post this on Facebook as well and kind of make sure everyone's aware of.
I'll share it as well.
YouTube.
I'll share it around, mate, for sure as well.
We'll do all of that.
Let us know when you put it up. But yeah, it's been great chatting. And look, any more info I can give to any of you guys, or if you've got any players that are interested to find out more, just shoot them our information, mate. And more.
100%. Yeah, listen, I'm all for setting up like I said, a little webinar.
Cool.
Listen, there'll be boys in there that it won't be, because like you said, being away from home and family and stuff, they struggle coming into me 5 days a week and not seeing them. So, you know what I mean? But then I know there are some boys that would literally thrive. And the thing I say to them, because obviously the America thing is a very popular thing over here, is listen, because they leave us 18, 19, right? I say, like, boys, with all due respect, you go there, you're going to get obviously the American thing is all education, right? So I'm like, you're going to get an unbelievable education and come across some unbelievable things while you're there. And when you finish after the 4 years, so you're back here at 22 with an unbelievable life experience. You don't have to stay there. Go there, try it out, enjoy it, come back, no problem. And then you're 22, you're still young, but what an experience that is. And also, as a person moving into a mature sort of state and being a grown up, that will help do that, you know? So
yeah, 100%. I think anything that adds to your life experience, really, you know, you've got to take it while you can. And being able to for me, football has been amazing. You know, it's all my social circle of friends, you know, it's all come from football, really, to be honest with you. In all the countries I've been in, the way I've made into the circles is through football. And I'm a terrible player, so I don't know how they've done that. You can travel the world with it, right? You haven't got to be, I guess the point is, you haven't got to be making millions and be a superstar to be able to travel the world and play football. You can do it at semi-professional level, amateur level, and it just opens up doors for you, and it's a great life experience.
That's what I mean. A lot of people don't go out of their towns or an hour away from their radius. You know, I've been quite lucky that from playing football on a national scale over here, I've travelled up and down the country doing it. Even like little things, you go out for a little team walk. You know, it's good. You come across things, come across sites and little things like that. So it's been very good. And I was quite fortunate enough to go out to America and for a month and be out there. And I mean, the best part of that was LeBron was in town at the time, because it was when Atlanta was playing the Cavs in the NBA. So it was a very good time to be out there. And honestly, the experience I had from there was unreal, and it completely changed my mindset on being out in America and playing football out there. You know, so 100%, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been great chat. We should do it again.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think what we might do, Ian, is we said that we would we open it up sometimes. So instead of doing it 3 ways, we'll get 20 people in, 30 people in, have a topic, and just have interaction all the time.
Cool.
You know, that could be quite a good thing as well.
Have a link, something like that.
Yeah, I know some guys that would be keen to get involved as well. So let us know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we'll do.
Well, mate.
I've got to go train, guys.
Good luck, mate.
See you guys later.
You take care.
Catch you later.
Take it easy. Bye.